Talking with famous people.
Hi friends, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. Welcome, and let's get started right away. You see this first slide here is I'm going to show you the overview of the slides that we're going to look at, and that it shows you 12 pages. Well, for reference, I've numbered them 1 through 12, and we will be able to therefore understand where we are sort of on the big scope here. We are focusing mostly on 11 and 12 later on in this video, which are specific to relationships, but we're going to start up here at pages 1 and 2, but we're going to specifically go to page 2 here. Cognitive conflicts or balancing factors or favoring impetus. This is about foreign functions. What I mean by that is perspectives that are incompatible with one another in such a way that they are unable to convert each other's values into a recognizable currency to the other one. And you'll see that NE is foreign to FI, NI to FE, TI to SE, and SI to TE. And the reason for this is because they are functions that are not related to each other. I don't know how exactly to say it except that they are, well, it explains it right here in these paragraphs. Disruption, the prioritization of changes the value in itself, etc. Okay, let's go on to this one. So you see the conflicted types down at the bottom. Well, these are ENFPs are the worst and INFJs are the worst, which means they are the most conflicted people. They're going to have the most trouble pulling it together. But the most ordered people are also conflicted types. Just change the name for that, you know. I mean, they're cross types. It either pans out in terms of net order, split, or net chaos. ENFP and INFJ are net conflict, I guess is a better way to put it. They're conflicted internally. They're not quite sure who they are or how to get there. In a different way than the ENTP is. Okay, so if we look at this main table now, I know we're getting to relationship stuff in a second. We're going to take a second to get there, going to set some things up, okay? Here's a nice little paragraph from a Russian article in Socionics I read. When communicating with a representative of this type, ENTP, be it a man or a woman, as an insurmountable obstacle that frequently emerges is that they have a chronic lack of time. This could result in that being close at hand, ENTP practically disappears from your field of vision. If you've already heard several times, let's do it another time, I don't have time today, or no, not just right now, the situation is poor. Quickly bake some cookies or delicious pies, and then your ENTP will undoubtedly drop by, bringing a fresh stream to your ordinary life. ENTP, sex bears no significance, will, with appetite, eat and enthusiastically tell tales of something which you have never heard before. In one word, both of you will spend the time wonderfully. Okay, so the key thing in this little paragraph of the Russian, there's all these weird, crazy, cool paragraphs translated from the Russian, but is the focus on the eating and not so much sex. Okay, let's go back. Here we are at the numbers again. Okay, well, for sure, we're kind of going a little fast here. Maybe I should pause this. Okay, so infantile romance style. So okay, look, this thing here is a pretty crucial table. According to Socionics, ENTPs have an infantile romance style, which means that the attribute is what sparks the interest, and the manifestation is sort of aesthetic attributes rather than ooh, you're sexy, okay, as opposed to active aggressive sexuality. Interest, pursuit, be goofy, use humor, be strange, as opposed to like playing it cool. Strategy: evoke fun and surprise for the partner in hopes that will attract her, as opposed to like power relations. You know, like, come on, woman. What we seek comfort and care for our daily needs, and that's opposed to provisioning or big picture stuff or whatever. Endings. We're neutral on endings, which means we don't feel it's important to to attribute definitive blame at the end of a relationship. We believe that it's fine if it ends sort of with that part undefined. Okay, so let's look at the next one. It says, view of attraction. We view it as static, and some people view it as fluid, like, well, I'm attracted to you now, but that may change. We view it for ourselves, I think, as static, and we view it for the other as static as well. So in terms of maintenance, we are low maintenance, and we like our opponent, our significant other. Oh, that's the problem with being a debate coach, right? We'd like our significant other to be low maintenance, ideally. Primary concern, attraction of the other. So we're trying to attract the other to ourselves, and we're mostly concerned about whether or not we can get them or not. And we're not so much concerned about whether we are particularly attracted to them, right? Whereas somebody like an FI is mostly concerned about whether they're attracted to you and not whether you're attracted to them, right? This is all in coordination with the whole lock it down thing. Physical well-being. We manifest as helpless in terms of physical well-being, like we can't take care of ourselves, as opposed to others who manifest as accountable. Best description, childlike. Best description of an alternative, what might be directed. This is one possible alternative. There are others. So there's an aggressive romantic style as well, of course, not just infantile. So we view aggressive romantic styles as obnoxious and rough. Female ENTPs are more likely to find aggressors scary or threatening. Male ENTPs may feel an aspirational quality towards this romance style early on, but you get over it. If you're healthy, you get over it immediately. Because if you're healthy, you don't even ever experience it. But few of us can manage to navigate the complicated rocks of adolescence and early adulthood without some difficulties there. They may resent the success of men who exercise it. Yep. I mean, I think that's, again, when we're young. And then as we get older, we may come to view it as animalistic, I guess, which is to say, it becomes sort of not worth our attention, I guess. We view other infantiles, like if we're going to get in a relationship with another person with an infantile romance style, we will find them fun but too demanding. If we try to get with a victim style, we find them paranoid and confusing. And if we try to get with a caregiver style, well, we find that comforting and pleasant company and fun. Now note, these romantic styles and the way that they relate to one another are distinct from non-sexual relationships, so that this caregiver role and infantile role is specific to a sexual relationship, and it doesn't exist in any of your other relationships. Okay, so let's move forward. Now, we're going to do a little paragraph here. I think this one's interesting. I'm going to go down to this part here. He's very inconsistent in relation to his family and friends. It is democratic to familiarity, suddenly stern and unapproachable, as with strangers. The people who came to him for help may render such assistance selfishly. This is a weird paragraph. It is very difficult to damage relations, denying a person to talk to. Feels connectedness relations. Do not hesitate to share with others their personal problems. Inclined to discuss the features of the behavior of people or ourselves. Okay, so that's obviously badly translated, but the gist of it is, I think, very much relevant, which is that, number one, we can be very inconsistent with our loved ones, which is to say we can be very affectionate, or we can be, I'm busy now. Number two, we are likely to render help to random people with just happily, unselfishly, gladly, to anybody who asks. It seems fun, almost like, oh, I'm going to go help somebody, or I'm going to go interact with somebody over a problem that needs to be solved. I mean, because we like to solve problems. He's very difficult to damage relations, denying a person to talk to. What that sentence means, it's weird wording, is that it's hard to damage relations with us. It's hard to get us so much so that we're not going to talk to you anymore, or that we're not going to still think there's a chance of us figuring out whatever our difficulties are. Feels connectedness relations. I mean, yeah. Okay, so let's move forward. Now we have this nice table. This nice table is showing you how, depending on your 1-4 slots, you're going to fall into a general category of one of these dimensions. I think this is important because we want to see whether these things are going to be in coordination with one another, complementary to one another is the word I'm looking for. And so if you look at the operations and the for the purpose of and the initiates upon, I guess. So obviously, and you, as far as the initiates upon part goes, ideally you want, I think, if you're going to be mating with somebody else, to have at least one of those things in common under initiates upon. That doesn't narrow the group very much, but it does narrow it a little bit. So we could eliminate then ESXP as a possible mate, and we could eliminate FITE as a possible mate, IXFP as a possible mate. Okay? And what else could we eliminate? That is it. Well, of course, that makes perfect sense. That makes absolutely perfect sense. So that's one way to narrow the field down. Well, what can we eliminate? We can eliminate those that don't initiate upon the same playing field. Right? We can eliminate those people as good mates. Because we share no common ground, basically, in terms of what we work on.
I'm rapping Eric. Hi, everybody. I'm rapping Eric.
God, rapping Eric's here.
I'm rapping Eric. Listen to my rhymes when I'm rapping. You can tell what I'm doing, I'm rapping. Yeah, hear that rhyme there, G? I'm rapping Eric.
Oh my God, it's rapping Eric.
Yeah, that's right. Word. Whoa, you can come up to me and you'll say, whoa, man, you rapping. I'll say, you're right about that for sure, cause you know why, cause I'm rapping Eric. Oh, you want to hear me rhyme? Well, listen to me scat and I'll rhyme, cause shooby-dooby-dooby-dooby-dop time, yeah. Oh, I'm rapping Eric.
Woo! That's some stinking funk going on in here. Woo! That's some stinking funk going on in here.
Have you got all my trading cards? Cause I've got Rappin' Eric trading cards. Yeah, that's why, because I'm Rappin' Eric. Oh, have you got all my gum? Cause I got my own brand of gum. Can you guess what my gum is called? It's called Rappin' Eric gum. I'm Rappin' Eric. I've got my own brand of cheese. It's my favorite cheese by far. It's a cheese that tastes just like me. It's called Rappin' Eric cheese. I'm Rappin' Eric. It's called Rappin' Eric cheese. I'm Rappin' Eric. It's called Rappin' Eric cheese. I'm Rappin' Eric. Rappin' Eric cheese. Rappin' Eric cheese. I'm rapping Eric cause I'm rapping. You can hear me with my rhymes and my flow. You people wanna call and battle me? Why, I'll put you down for sure. And then you'll be disappointed. You wish you hadn't battled me at all. Cause you know why I'm the best that there is. That's why they call me I'm Rappin' Eric.
Hello. Back again. Doing the last bit of this. This next slide is a paragraph. It's another one of those Russian paragraphs that I think is kind of cool. And it says, by the nature of non-aggressive, but their lives and their theories can defend very active, and attempt to subordinate themselves unreasonable, in his view. Restrictions react very violently. If he is under strong pressure, he immediately goes to a short but strong counterattack. Thus, so excited that for a while losing control of his actions during the call, tries to get all the attention interlocutor. A strong gesture, said with a loud voice, fiddles with some object, or touches the other party, although it can respond to the challenge, but does not make a long-term competition, as not strong enough to keep himself in a state of mobilized, therefore avoid direct competition. Well, I think this is important to note that you, as an ENTP, or your mate as an ENTP, does not want to be subordinated, does not want to be told what to do, and is very peaceful and non-aggressive, and that can deceive people sometimes. But that doesn't mean we are pushovers at all. We're quite the opposite. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Move along here and see if we can go. Back to the table of contents, 1 through 12. So we have talked about pages 2. We've talked about 11. We've talked about 10, I think. Well, here we go on to 11. All right, so 11 says the subtypes, and I've divided these subtypes into how they're going to impact a relationship. According to sociologists, there are two subtypes of the ENTP, the intuitive subtype and the logical subtype. And you can see here each of the traits of each of those subtypes is laid out in that first column. And there's a plus if the intuitive has more, there's a minus if the intuitive has less, and vice versa for the logical, and et cetera, et cetera. And then it tells you who has the advantage, so to speak, in a relationship, who's better off. It would seem to me that probably intuitives are better off in terms of overall being more fitted for relationships than the logicals. But what we see here is regarding projected seriousness, not really an issue upon a relationship. Projected approachability, that potentially is an issue in a relationship, at least in the initiative stage. Kindness, well, they say intuitives are more kind. Well, that would benefit the intuitives. Defensiveness, intuitives are less defensive. That would benefit the intuitives. Promising, we are more likely to break our promises, as I do all the time, and I try not to promise anything anymore, just like it says in the sociologic stuff. The logicals have an advantage there. Dualism, this means basically that you are more volatile. Intuitives are more volatile. We're more up and down and have more wide-ranging moods and stuff like that. Humor, we're both considered to be humorous. Suspicion, we're non-suspicious. You guys are, these logicals are a little more suspicious. Intuitives probably have an advantage in a relationship. It depends. I would say it does, certainly in the initiating stages again. For vanity and appearance, both neutral. Body, for male ENTPs, neutral. For body, they say the logical subtype is slender and the intuitive subtype is stocky. I call bullshit on that. I put it there anyway just to show you that some of these things are, I don't know. The reality is, I do know an ENTP that fits this so-called stocky type, but most of the ENTPs that I'm familiar with are tall and skinny. How others perceive us. Well, we have less knowledge of that than the logicals do. Fightiness, we're less fighty. It gives us an advantage over the logicals. Dynamism, we're more dynamic. It's kind of neutral. Need for respect, we have less need for respect, which gives us a bit of an advantage in a relationship. But we are less mindful, which gives logicals an advantage. Inventiveness, doesn't matter. Gullibility, probably doesn't matter much. Social grace, we're a little bit more socially graceful, supposedly. We could also make more big social mistakes, though. And for prioritization of work, the logicals have an advantage there. That might be an advantage in a relationship, depending on if it's correlates with money. Emotional display, we're more emotionally display-y, and so as a consequence, that gives us an advantage. Probably better off in a relationship if you're an intuitive, at least getting into one. I don't know if staying in one. All right, let's move forward and see what the next slide is. And when we do, Bob, can you put the next slide, please? All right, go back to the table of contents. Okay, well, that was 11. Was it? Yeah, that was 11. And now we are going to, this appears to be page 7. All right, well, page 7 shows us an interesting chart, doesn't it? It shows us the type, the quadrant, and the... Okay, so let's talk about this last slide here, which is going to be page 7. Last series of slides, I guess. I'm going to go through it really quickly. I've tried to get through this a number of times. The key element to look at there is the blue-green column. All right, and I've highlighted it here on the ENTP one. You're going to also see the highlights pop up next for the other ones down here. All right, so those ones that are highlighted I'll focus first on the bottom one there, INTJ. That's going to be opposite blue-green on the ends, okay? And same 3 in the middle. That's a good sign. Same with INFJ right there. That's a good sign. You've got outside. Now, look in contrast, these ones here, when you have like a bad choice, the reason INTP is not a good choice is because, look, the difference between how they view others and the fact that the view of truth is different, although in the same realm, but most of all because the self to the INTP is foreign. Okay, so let's move on to the next chart. That's just the bottom of this chart, so you can see I didn't exclude everybody. I didn't exclude anybody, I mean. Okay, there's the table of contents again. Then we go straight to the box factory. I'm a big believer in the box factory. Look at those jobs. Who do you coordinate with? The designer, as an ENTP, coordinates with knowing which things fits in boxes. That's a good choice. It coordinates with finder of things that fit in boxes. That's a good choice. It doesn't coordinate with things and moving things to boxes and carrying things filled with boxes. It doesn't coordinate with thing, okay? Let's go on to the next one. Alright, look here. This is what I've been saying all along is a key element, is who has TIFE in the 2-3. Those are going to be your best choices. But let's look here. We should make sure about this too. That these values, these things that are prioritized, match up. We're vulnerability, that's what we prioritize. We see, in other words, we see the vulnerability in things. It makes us very protective sometimes of people too. We recognize the vulnerability in things. It's going to coordinate well with the incomplete. It's going to coordinate well with incorrectness, but probably not long term, because incorrectness is looking for finality. Alright, I mean, so is incompleteness, but anyway, consider those elements. It's not a huge big deal. I just wanted to throw them in there. Next thing we have, the final thing, the final slide, the victory dance. The chance to finally win in life and become a whole person. Finally, I can become whole. Here we go. What does it take to become whole? Well, all it takes is for you to read this slide. Once you read this slide, it's going to be all over. I'm having problems here with this slide at the moment. I don't know why. Meow? Alright, let's meow it, I guess. Here we go. Alright, so this one right here we're looking at is showing us the types that we should get with. Cross off INTP. No INTP. We do want ESFJ, ISTP, ENFJ, ISFJ, INFJ. We don't want ISTJ, ESFP, ESTJ, INFP, ISFP, ENFP. INTP is kind of middle, alright? When I say we don't want them, I mean they're not a top choice, but they're not terrible. Look, here's the deal with this. I want you to remember some stuff here at the end. Picture our brain.
Talking with famous people.